You can't go out playing golf having fun.
Fun. Senor, you have obviously never played Wingfoot.
It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
You've got to be kidding me, Vegas. On Monday night. There's my picks for this week. Now, if you want next week's picks, I can give you those by Friday.
What's going on, sports fans? Welcome to week 14 of the Wingfoot Locks, brought to you by Wingfoot Sports. And if I seem like I have a little extra pep in my step, I think there's some reason after last week's picks. What about you, Greg Hoyle?
Feeling good, right? In baseball, we call it seeing the ball well. We were seeing the ball well, and as I say that, I think I just turned my camera off, so already off the rails. I wasn't seeing the buttons all that well, but we liked what we had. We liked essentially a lot of the banter we had last week was about giving gifts, where Anthony Lynn was a bit of a Grinch. So we're going back to the same things. We'll stick with the baseball idea of seeing the ball well. We're going to go with a little superstition here and have a little witching hour is what we're having here.
So I need somebody out there. If anybody saw this, I swear that I saw Scott Hansen on the NFL Red Zone show a bottle of witching hour wine, and I could just be mixing it up with my buddy Greg showing me his witching hour wine bottle as we're doing this podcast. But I really think that he may have showed it. So if anybody else saw it out there, them showing it, please check it out, because I love this, and I need to get a bottle of witching hour wine if we continue on this roll. Also, whatever vineyard that's from needs to become a sponsor of the podcast.
It's quite good. It's a nice red blend. I really couldn't tell you who the I think witching hour might be the name of the winery, but yeah, I mean, you got to give a little in the gift-giving spirit, just like last week. You got to give a little to get a little, right? We're going to give these free promos in the early gone, but 2021, I expect some advertisement here from pumpkin beer breweries and red wine wineries.
They pair perfectly. We'll do a regular seasonal sponsorship. I love that idea. Anyway, listen, obviously we know we had a great week last week, but this is a what have you done for me lately business. So we've got to look ahead. 8-0 last week. Last time I'll mention it. 8-0 last week. All right? That's the last time. We're going to go ahead and give you more winners this week. It's a busy slate. We got a lot of games to pick. All right? We got a lot of games to pick. So with that being said, do we have an 8-pack this week as well, Greg, of games that we like? That's pretty crazy here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I happen to count 8 picks here on my screen. So let's get started. We'll jump right in.
That's a lot.
Yeah, 8 is a lot. 8 is a lot, but it worked out last week. Maybe we have to pick 8 every week. We're going to start with a game that we both like, 1 o'clock slate. The Giants shocked everyone going across the country last week to defeat Seattle. That defense looked like a juggernaut. Wayne Gallman did enough. The offense didn't turn the ball over, and they come out with a win. I think everybody was surprised by the NFC least last week, not just the Giants, also Washington ending Pittsburgh's undefeated season, giving the Miami Dolphins a chance to light the cigar. This week, the Giants come all the way back east. They're taking on another NFC West team, this time the Arizona Cardinals, who have really been going in the opposite direction of the Giants. I think they lost 4 out of the last 5, and that's only because one of those was the Hail Murray, as it has been dubbed. This week, the Giants are getting 3 points at home. Now, I have been on the Giants for a little while. Going back to that Thursday night game against Philly, I like the things that Joe Judge has been doing, and I think he's going to keep it going with this one. The defense has undoubtedly been performing as one of the top defenses in the league. And I think that across the league, it seems like defenses have been able to figure out Kyler Murray a little bit. So why then do I think that he can go on the road, a West Coast team coming east playing 1 o'clock in that time zone? We know about how they fare there. And then he has struggled running the ball. Now, whether or not it was his shoulder that was injured and that's the reason that he hasn't been running as much, or the fact that maybe it isn't working for the game plan and the teams have figured him out. I think we saw the Giants play a similar type team in the Seahawks that have a mobile quarterback, and they managed to contain Russell Wilson. So I don't think there's a reason they can't do that again this week. So for that reason, I say take the 3 points with the Giants at home. I think they can win this one outright. And all of a sudden, the NFC East isn't looking so bad for the playoffs there with them and the Washington football team. I'm not going that far yet, but I'm just saying, watch out for these Giants, the G-men this week. What do you think, Greg?
Little spunky NFC action, right? NFC East showing up a little bit.
Thank goodness.
Do we know yet who is going to be quarterbacking? And do you have a preference, by the way? Colt McCoy or Danny
Daniel
Dimes?
Jones. Yeah. So I do have a preference. I think despite what Colt McCoy did last week in getting the win, I don't think it was because of him that they won. He did what he had to do. He's a great backup quarterback. And I use that term. He's a great backup, right? He's not a great starter, but everything about him, he knows the game plan when he comes in. He's proven to have some success before when he was with Washington. To answer your initial question this week, Daniel Jones officially listed as questionable. It looks like he is going to get the start in this one. I prefer having Daniel Jones in there. First of all, I don't think that the Cardinals defense is opportunistic enough to take advantage of Daniel Jones, and I think he has cut down on the turnovers a little bit. Look, I think part of cutting down on the turnovers is the emergence of the offensive line. He's obviously struggled under pressure, and we know that since the offensive line has played better, Daniel Jones, before he got injured, his play has stepped up. Also, I think he's adds a level of mobility that the defense has to account for that you don't see with Colt McCoy. I think that opens things up for Wayne Gallman and the running backs. I think Joe Judge is doing an absolutely phenomenal job coaching this team, and you can literally see them getting better every week. I don't know why that wouldn't continue this week. And if you're just telling me that they're going to get a little bit better every week, whereas I don't think the Cardinals are heading in that same direction, I really, really like what he's been doing there. So Daniel Dimes, Daniel Jones is expected to get the start in this one, coming off that hamstring injury.
That's a little bit of a bummer for me. So I think Colt would probably have us in better shape there. My only issue is I think the element of running the ball is what makes Jones a little bit more dynamic, right? And if you're coming off, like it looked like he was in a ton of discomfort there with the hammy, but I'm also not convinced until I need the game that Kyler Murray is going to go out there and run the ball 10 plus times for me to be convinced that shoulder is okay. I think he's been a different quarterback since he, hurt that shoulder, despite what they're saying right now, is that, hey, the shoulder's getting better, yada, yada, yada. Like, he's not running the ball. He's not running the ball. I think he had like 5 attempts.
But part of the reason for that is because teams have been spying him, right? They have been keeping him in the pocket, and that is, they know that's what they're going to take away, right? You're the best thing that you have. And it's interesting to see. It's always after you play Bill Belichick, I feel like he has a game plan to shut down your best weapon, whatever it is. And look, defenses had started before that game getting to him with the correct type of blitzes, right? When you blitz, I think there's a misconception about just going after the quarterback. How you blitz is so important to that, and I think teams have managed to understand that they have to keep him in the pocket, and it really has limited his effectiveness over the last 5 weeks.
There's some pretty damning info out there just on Kingsbury late in the season and how he closes out a season. And I think it's really just like you mentioned, right? So obviously if Belichick puts some good tape out there on D and everyone else kind of copies that, right? It doesn't seem like there's much evidence in the past. It seems like I think this dated back a good 5 or 6 years. I was listening to another podcast, and they were just talking about how losing 5 of 6, 6 of 6, 4 of 5. That's like Kingsbury's end of year for a good 5 to 6 years. One of which he had Mahomes as his quarterback.
So you're talking about going back to college with him, because obviously he's only been with the Cardinals for 1 year.
Yeah. Correct. So to me, that just shows that, when other teams have tape on him, they can scheme against him and he can adapt, right? That's, essentially what that would tell me. I also think, how about the emergence of Wayne Gallman in the backfield there? Because he's running the ball pretty well. I usually You'd be hard pressed to hear me talk about a running back, but he's been pretty impressive. Where I think the Redskins are really going to suffer without Gibson, who's come on. Gallman's really stepped in nicely there for Saquon. I'm pretty impressed with that kid. So I just like control the game on defense, run the ball, right? And if Evan Ingram, that dude drops so many balls, right? So can we just go? Can we just go a week here without an Evan Ingram drop? And I'll really love these 3 points. I love him.
He has been one of the guys who makes that spectacular catch that you don't expect him to make, and then the one that he needs to make, he drops. And it's just been – but I think he gets ahead of himself, right? He's looking upfield to make the next play before he catches the ball. You got to catch the ball first. And he knows it, but he stepped up for it every time, to his credit.
He catches that ball in the Eagles-Giants game. I mean, the Eagles season is basically already over, right? But I think they would be pretty much so mathematically eliminated at this point, and the Giants would have a total stranglehold, right? So not only have they been winning, but they've been in every game, right? So how could you not like the Giants +3 at home getting those points? This is going to be I don't think I definitively told you before we got on here what the tease was going to be.
All right.
But I'm gonna tack that on there. We're gonna make it 6.5, and that's gonna be the front end of the tease.
6.5. So we're taking the Giants +9.5 is the number on that one there for the first.
If you're seeing, and this is just a disclaimer, if you're seeing it out there, some of the numbers I'm seeing are at 2.5, and some of them are at 3. So we've decided on 3, and that's why we like that number. But if you're seeing it at 2.5, obviously, do a 7-point teaser and just get it up to 9.5.
You think that's a key number that you would pay the extra juice on that?
Nope, but I'm not going to lose. I'm not going to lose a tease at 9 because I was cheap. Because I was cheapo on $10, and it lands on 9, and I just get devastated. I will never, if I can control it, I will never be on an even number there. I always want to go up or down, right?
Yeah. One other note on this is just James Bradberry has had an awesome season. And he's going to be shadowing DeAndre Hopkins, or you expect him to shadow DeAndre Hopkins in this one. I think that, say what you want about the former Bill O'Brien era with the Texans and what was going on there. I thought the Texans were always very creative in the ways that they got the ball to DeAndre Hopkins and they lined him up. I haven't seen as much creativity when it comes to getting him the ball out of Cliff Kingsbury and the Arizona Cardinals. So look for that this week and see if the Cardinals try and move him around the field to get him some more touches, because he is a dynamic wide receiver out there, and credit to James Bradberry and how he's been playing this season. So let's move on to the next game, because like I said, we got a full slate this week. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off the bye, struggling going into it here. This week they're 6.5-point favorites as they host the Minnesota Vikings. Now I think I'm out here on an island. Vikings actually in the playoff contention after starting 1-5 this season, 6-6 right now, holding on to one of the final spots there. I believe they would take on Green Bay in the first round. Obviously, the Vikings have predicated their success in this part of the season on Dalvin Cook and his running ability. So I want to start here with the conceptions and perceptions, I should say, of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right? We obviously know that when you've been able to get pressure on Tom Brady, he has struggled. If you look at the teams that they've played recently, and I was blanking on the third one before the podcast, and I forget it again right now, but I know 2 of the 3 are the Saints and the Rams, 2 of the best defensive fronts in the league, and they were able to get pressure on Brady. Those were times that we like to fade him. He had some of his worst performances of the year in those games. The Minnesota Vikings do not get pressure on the quarterback. In fact, I believe they're one of the worst in the league, and since they traded away Yannick Ngakoue, they have been even worse. He still leads the team in sacks, and I believe they traded him in week 6 or 8, right? And so the guy hasn't been there for half the games.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah, it's really, or a depressing fact if you're the Minnesota Vikings.
Right.
So the other thing that you look at is the Vikings winning, right? their schedule has been one of the softest schedules in this chunk of the season with the teams that they're beating. They have beaten the likes of, let's not forget, Jacksonville. They had to go to overtime. The Carolina Panthers, right? That one was one that came down to the wire. Carolina missed a field goal that would have given them the win in that one. You look at the Cowboys game that they lost outright to the Cowboys at home. So despite their record that they are in the back end of the playoffs right now, this is just not a good spot for them. And that when they have had success, it's come against poor running defenses. This week, they're facing the number 1 rushing defense in the NFL in Tampa Bay, and they are rested. This works out perfectly for the Bucs. The fact that they have such a late bye week, I think it's the last bye week in the season. If I'm not, we'll see what happens with COVID and everything. But this was the last bye week in the season, and the Bucs found themselves fortunate enough to get on that bye week. I think they bounce back nicely here with extra time to prepare. You give me Brady with extra time to prepare. Look, it was Brady and Belichick, and I think that they're going to have a game plan this week. I think maybe this week they'll have the time to get the shots downfield, which is going to benefit that Bruce Arians offense. And you got your wide receivers in Godwin and Evans healthy for this. I think this has a route written all over it. I am on the Bucs this week. Now, Greg, you're hesitant. You don't want to jump on board. Tell me about what is giving you cause for pause this week.
I'm much closer to doing our first heads up in a while than I am with jumping on board. So,
Okay.
So just real quick, I gotta send a flare out here because it's a part of the research here. We do a lot of listening to others and reading and whatnot. What you just mentioned, the late buy, the December buy, is that what it was? It's
it would have been the first week in December.
It's like close to a 30 game sample size, and it's actually in the low 40s on the hit rate for the team that gets the late bye. So you would think that it's a good thing, right? They get their bye later in the season, but that first game off the bye, it's actually like 41, 42%. I think the stat was like 13 and 18 off of that late bye. Don't know why, because I totally agree with you. Logic would say you need some rest this late into the season. So if you've got it, then you should be able to go out there and
how many of those situations was the quarterback 40 plus years old?
Oh, I don't know.
That's what I can imagine. Zero.
And is that a good thing?
I would think so. He gets a little acupuncture, gets a little, massage.
I just don't understand. I wasn't against the Vikings last week. I was just saying that the Vikings were laying 10 points. From what you were saying, they were just beating bad teams, right? They needed to go into overtime to beat another bad team. But I don't know what you would prefer. Do you prefer that they lose these games? Because that's what Tampa's been doing. Granted, it's been against good teams, but the Vikings have the better win of the two in like the last 5 weeks here in that win against Green Bay. That's the best win in like the last 5 games.
That's got to be more than 5 weeks ago. No,
it's 5 weeks ago. Yeah, but there are no good wins it was Carolina and it was the Raiders, and the Raiders I think was the same week that Tampa beat the Raiders. I think it was the same week that the Vikings beat the Packers. So
this isn't as much a buy on the Vikings as you're not sold on the Packers, and you think on the Bucs you might want to sell the Bucs is what you're saying.
It's too many points, and I think you're going to have a kind of a playoff like feel, right? 7-5, 6-6. Both teams need this game, right? I can't look ahead to any other type of games because these teams can't look ahead. I haven't even looked at who's next on the schedule because they really both need the game. So I think I looked into the total, right? The over-under was a little too high. If they were putting something like 47 in here, I would have been all over the Vikings because that would have been too few points for me to lay 7 with Tampa. But they got it at 52.5, and that's what gives me pause to grab the 7 points. So I'm just not going to do it. If it were a lower total, I would have grabbed those 7 points, but there's less value in my opinion.
Okay, so just to go back here for a second, because the Packers game was 6 weeks ago.
Oh, sorry.
At this point, so it does fall outside.
It's still the best win that either team has in the last 6 weeks.
It might be the best, but the Packers are one of the best teams in the league. It's probably the best team that either is beaten all season.
Right, but you were discrediting the Vikings for not having beaten anyone.
Well, no. I said lately their cupcake schedule. You're right. You're right. I just not all.
They're
That was an
playing
impressive
who's
win.
lining
Listen,
up.
that was an impressive win, and if you want to talk about that, then we can talk about the outlier of the
Vikings match up well against the Packers, who let up big runs all the time. That's the equation to beat the Packers. Tampa has a good run defense. I get it. I get
styles
it.
make
It's
fights,
matchups.
and they can only do they have a good run defense, they can't get pressure on the quarterback. That is a recipe for disaster for them this week. This style is just it just the matchup. Everything to me says it favors the Buccaneers. Where you look on it, the strengths of the Buccaneers or the weaknesses of Minnesota, and vice versa. So,
all right. Well, you take your Tampa Bay Buccaneers there, SpongeBob.
well, listen. Oh, I like it. I'm still waiting for you to. I'm trying to come on in, man. If you have such, I want you to take the Vikings, take the other side of this, and go head to head. Have some conviction there.
You want yourself a face-off at 7? You got it. I'm not doing 6.5 because I'm looking at 7 over here.
I'll take it.
So
I'll take it at even money. No juice.
No juice.
No juice
7
on
works. You got yourself a deal.
We'll go head to head. All right, I love it. Bringing it out on the podcast. Let's go to the next game here. Your Philadelphia Eagles punting on the season, you say, as they switch to Jalen Hurts as quarterback this week. They are taking on the New Orleans Saints, getting 7 points. So you are all over the Saints in this one. Let's hear the logic.
So I'm going to take it back like I like to do with some business analogies, right? I want my best guys and gals working on the most important projects, right? If I'm in that locker room for the Eagles and you're trotting out the clearly less good quarterback, right? It's like putting somebody less competent on a big important project and just, expecting because it's somebody new, it'll, fix all the still existent problems that you have and expecting a better result than putting somebody better on a project and thinking, we're going to put this other person to just mix things up, right? It just doesn't have any, I don't know. It just seems illogical to me. And if I'm in that, locker room every year, I want to go to the playoffs versus not going to the playoffs, and they're not mathematically eliminated. So when you get mathematically eliminated, then you trot the kid out and you see what he's got. But not when you are at home. You could still pick up a game and you have a better quarterback on your roster. How is the rest of the team going to respond to that? The defense has been playing their heart out and keeping them in games, and then they're going to trot out a less good quarterback. So this is my take here. Read the first half. I found it, if we can go into the rear view. Do you know how nervous I was last week? There were only 3 possessions for Green Bay in the first half. They didn't have any. They had 1 possession in the first quarter. Touchdown, second quarter, easy cover, never doubted. I think I sent you a never doubted it text there. Ridiculous. You get 3 possessions there and you score 2 touchdowns back to back. But I think I got a pretty good read on this team, and I think in this situation, you lose the locker room doing what you're doing. And if you lose the locker room and the defense has been playing for you, now they're going to stop playing for you, right? And the Saints have a nice streak, right? Obviously, I don't think Taysom Hill is a world beater, but I think that defense is going to, whatever the team under is for the Eagles for this game, grab it. I don't even care. That's like a free side pick. But 6.5, I think you can still get 6.5 out there for the Saints, minus 6.5. Grab that. If you're at 7, right, that's fine. If you want to buy it down to 6.5, that's obviously always better. But I think this is going to be ugly.
My one caveat here, just putting it out there, next week the Saints have the Chiefs, and that could be a little bit of a trap look-ahead spot there. NFC,
non-conference game.
No, you're right, absolutely. But when you're playing 2 of the best teams in the league, you tend to they tend to
look ahead.
to look ahead to that game. But
Yeah, I thought about that. I'm aware of it.
by the way,
and
oh
that was where my
man,
head
dude,
went.
your video just froze and you looked like a Muppet. It was perfect. It
Oh,
was.
no.
It was just no. You're good. You're back again. But for a second, it
I
froze
wa-
and you were just like this.
I watched a Muppets Christmas Carol last night.
Delightful.
You familiar with this?
I am.
Anyone, because especially the younger folks watching this, anyone who doesn't hit up the Muppets Christmas Carol Christmas movie is just missing out on some of the best things in life.
Next week we'll have to rank our best Christmas movies of all time.
Little Tiny Tim Frog and Kermit the Frog, man, their little duos of
All right.
singing.
We'll save it for next week. I know it really tugs at the heartstrings.
Gets me right there, man. There.
Let's move on to the
Saints,
next game.
Saints minus 6.5.
All right. I mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs, so we'll go to that game next. I just said that the Saints might be in a look-ahead spot, so I guess the same has to be true of the Chiefs here. This week, they're laying 7 on the road against Miami. Okay.
Sure, so why don't you pick them?
Yeah, well, you're right, man. I will be SpongeBob this week. I will be SpongeBob. I've just given the evidence against myself. There's one main reason why I like the Chiefs in this spot this week, okay? That is because this time of year we look at motivating factors. The Chiefs have a chance to clinch their division with a win this week. And I love that spot, getting up for that. The other thing is, I'm not sold on Tua, right? We have clearly seen him struggle. Even in their wins, the Dolphins have struggled to put up points. So say what you want. Kudos to the Dolphins defense for doing what they've been doing as of late. But I think that this week they are in a rough spot because playing in nice weather down in Miami, I think actually benefits the Chiefs in this one with that high-flying offense. I don't think that the Miami Dolphins offense will be able to exploit the Chiefs defense in this one. I think when you just boil it down to those things, the fact that, one, the Chiefs have a chance to clinch the division, two, the fact that they're playing in nice weather, which is going to benefit them, and three, that the Dolphins offense can't keep up to score with them, and they like to blitz a lot, right? That, I think, is where Mahomes is going to thrive. He is going to hit Hill and Kelsey. The one thing that I want to check on for this is the offensive line of the Chiefs, because I did like the Broncos last week, and part of the reason for that was because the Chiefs, I believe, had 3 offensive linemen who were banged up in that one. So I want to confirm that they are going to be playing. I believe they were questionable. Only one was listed as out, I thought, when I checked earlier. Greg, you can double check me on that. So caveat there, because I don't think that helps against the blitz. But that being said,
you're talking Schwartz,
Yang, yep,
and Duvernay Tardif.
Oh no, he's been gone.
That guy's been gone forever.
Yeah, he's been gone for the whole season.
That's the nurse or doctor.
Yes,
correct.
Yeah.
Niang is out. It says Mitchell is on IR now, and then I don't have anyone else on there.
Okay.
So
I think it's just one of them that's, like I said, of the 3 is expected not to play. But again, I will double check that they're playing. I think that the Chiefs put up a ton of points this week, and I don't think the Dolphins can keep pace. And for that reason, styles make fights. I think this is a nice style for the Chiefs to exploit in that blitzing Miami defense. Also, what's the cornerback who got tossed? Xavier Howard. Is he playing for the Dolphins in this one? That was the other thing that I wanted to check. I don't think.
Yeah, see, I have an injury report up, so I don't think it would list suspensions on here. Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah. He has been. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, Howard has been talked about for defensive MVP this year. That's how important he is to that team.
With your permission, I kind of want to do a Joe Mosseri-esque tease or pivot here. I don't even know what the actual technical term is here, but I wanted to say you just mentioned the nice weather in Miami. It's going to be sunny and 77 in Jacksonville this week. which means all signs lead to the over.
Oh, so that sounds like a great pivot. A segue is what you're looking for.
A segue. You see,
Yes.
and I know that term. It just escaped me at this point. So as long as you're done with Kansas
move
City,
on.
I wanted to segue into the Titans game, right? Every single one of their games goes over. They have no defense. They have a good offense that scores. Jacksonville, despite trotting out the worst quarterbacks, they just have a string of terrible quarterbacks. This is hilarious. Glennon, Johnny Newton, and Gardner Minshew being a laughable character himself. They're going to put up between like 21, 24 points in this game, right? And we always say it takes two teams to hit an over. Tennessee is going to be out for blood, right? So they're going to score. They're not going to stop scoring. If they're going to put the game away with Henry, Henry's going to run himself into 2 touchdowns later on in that game, right? So if they get up in like the 24-point range and they're trying to put the game away, I bet they jump up to 38, right? So I'd like this game to crush the over, the 52.5. And from that side of things, I was thinking the entire time that I was going to tack that on to the tees. So I think I'm going to have to pull that down to be 45.5. So it's going to end up being a 7-point tease, which works out well. If people are seeing the Giants at 2.5, then they get it up to 9.5, and that's fine. But if you get it at 3, you pull it up to 10, but you pull this Jags Titans game down from 52.5 and you put it to 45.5 on a 7-point tease. I don't want to have 46 as my number, so that's why I don't want to do a 6.5 pointer. But nice weather, 2 good scoring offenses. The Jags, even though they're not trying to win, they're still playing in these games, which is good to see. And by the way, you brought up a good point, and we're going to be very diligent with this, me specifically, because I didn't look into it at all. The playoff scenarios, who's clinch, who's been mathematically eliminated, that's going to be key for the next, 3 weeks after this week that we're going to have to keep our eyes out for. So good job with bringing that up with Kansas City earlier, because I think that's a key piece, especially when teams that think that they're going to get in, right? Like maybe if the Vikings lose this week, then they're all sad and they put up another stinker the next week because they've been officially eliminated.
Well, they're not getting eliminated just yet because the NFC is as bad as it is. I don't think a loss puts them in.
Well, see, but that's another good point, right? Where when you think typically a team gets their 7th loss and they'd be out of it, they might still be in it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, they're in the playoffs right now. And don't forget, we have an extra team making the playoffs this year too, right? So that changes things. So I got to throw a quick flag on you here because you told me before the podcast how awful and distracting it was when you rock back and forth in your chair. And for that entire segment, I was distracted by how you rock back and forth in the chair. And unless you're going to fall over and entertain us all that way, I'm throwing the flag on there.
That's not out of the realm of possibilities. I'll figure out. You know what? Every time you catch me on that, I'll put a 10 spot more into the old cycle for survival pool there. So
I love it. All right, we got to go rapid fire here. We got 3 more games to pick. Speaking of playoff clinching scenarios, the Pittsburgh Steelers also have a chance to clinch, but the Buffalo Bills have a scenario where they can clinch as well in this one here. Bills laying 2 points at home against the Steelers, who are coming off the first loss of the season. And let's be honest, the Steelers just have not been able to run the ball, and they have had one of the toughest scheduling issues this season. Way back when the Tennessee Titans were dealing with their outbreak of COVID-19, the Steelers had that game moved all over the map. Then they got to deal with the Ravens outbreak, and so their game gets moved all over the map with the Ravens. That sets back the Washington thing. We were on Washington on Monday Night Football. It is just a nightmare schedule with what they've had to deal with, playing so many games in such short time. Their defense is banged up. Obviously, no Bud Dupree. I think they're going to be missing Hayden for this one and one of their linebackers as well. We have seen Josh Allen click with that offense right now. I think that this one is going to be high scoring, but I think that the Bills end up having the advantage here at home again in Buffalo and having a regular schedule that they've been able to depend on as of late. That's it. Those are the reasons. I think this one is going to be a little bit of a shootout between the young gun over there and Josh Allen and Ben Roethlisberger. And tell me you don't think that Josh Allen has a little bit of Ben Roethlisberger in him.
Sure.
Right? It's
Certainly.
such a great comparison. So I think we see a little
Absolutely.
bit of the changing of the guard, if you will, here. And Josh
I
Allen
think
gets the best of him.
I think he's his body double, right? I mean,
Speaking
they're
of
very
SpongeBob
similar.
SquarePants.
So you were mentioning, by the way, like, why don't you like the over in that game?
I do
Can
like
ask?
I do
And
like the
this-
over. It's a high scoring game. I don't know what the weather is in Buffalo. Too far out to to predict from that level. And I believe I checked it was it 48, 49?
47.5 is what I got it at.
Okay. A little bit lower.
This should have been a contender for the tees, but anyone who needs a third selection or likes going rogue or whatever, drop that sucker down to 40.5 and pound that over.
You know
tie
what?
it up in 2 or 3
A cold
things.
night in Buffalo, right? It's the primetime game of the week. I don't know what the conditions are going to be up there. Just pay attention to that before you jump right in. We are in December now. I know it's going to be 60 degrees here in New York City, but
And that, by the way, if it's going to be cold, right, a little bit more, not that at least Josh Allen is the run game for the Bills, right? And Zach Moss has come on a little bit. So I think if you are starting to deal with the cold, a little bit of a mixed offense there with a little bit more balance than the Steelers have. They're getting it out quick, but still, you can't ever really replace the run with the short pass there, the little, 2-3 step drop and dumping it out. But yeah, I like Buffalo as well for everything that you mentioned. I like the balance that they have there, and I do like the way that Josh Allen's been playing. So I'm on that as well.
let's move on to the next one. Speaking of rough schedules, the Monday night matchup this week features the Cleveland Browns getting 2 points at home as they host the Baltimore Ravens. Browns coming off that impressive win against the Titans on the road in Tennessee. The Ravens are coming off their Wednesday night game against the Dallas Cowboys, where they just absolutely ran all over Dallas in that one. So for that reason, I just mentioned the schedule and how that hasn't favored the Steelers. I think this is a terrible spot for the Ravens after having come off a Wednesday night game, having to go now on the road and play on Monday Night Football against the Browns. The other thing is, we know that the Ravens took care of the Browns earlier this season, and we have seen this before. These teams, I don't know why, Greg, but for some reason, these teams, when they played each other, one side or the other, I feel like has blown out.
The route, yeah.
One way or the other. And so that, to me, lends itself to this being a route. If one of these teams is gonna route the other in this game, I gotta go with Cleveland because obviously, one, the schedule, which I just mentioned, two, the ineffectiveness of Lamar Jackson and getting to see him so much, and three, the fact that the Browns' run defense has been really solid. The Browns have proven that they can win scrappy games, and I'm getting 2 points with them at home. So I got to go with the Browns in this one and say take the 2 points. I think they win this one outright.
It's all you, brother. All you.
I know, it's hard, right? It's hard because when can you trust the Browns in a big spot?
Well, it's that. That's the big one, right? And off of the big win, right? So, like, they slaughtered. It was 38-7, and they just worked Tennessee, right? So I don't like taking teams off a big win like that, right? So I think that to me is the bigger piece, right? Where it's just like, hey, I'd go money line on the pick, quite frankly, because you got them too. It's not up to the key number, right? So just throw away the points, right? Because traditionally one of the teams, just like you mentioned, is blowing out the other. So, might as well get plus, 115, plus 120, whatever they're giving out for it. If you're gonna go with the Browns, go the whole way.
I think that the crazy part about this, though, man, is if you think back to what happened in Week 1 and where these two teams are right now, it's just crazy to think that the Browns are gonna go and they're making a playoff push right now. The other thing to think about, though, because you mentioned the Tennessee game, is they won against Tennessee handily, but that second half they played like garbage. That was only a 6-point game, right? when it was all said and done.
Oh yeah, yep.
So from a coaching
Yeah,
standpoint, that's the kind of thing you want. Hey, we got to play all 60 minutes. We got to get it up there.
Right. But I'm going to give them a pass for that one. I get it. And they let them back in the game and they needed to recover an onside kick in order to ice that one. But I think easier said than done. They still won. Right. So from that side of things,
course.
they did what they needed to do to win. So,
but the other thing is, Greg, don't forget this, because I know you were cursing Greg Zuerlein, the Cowboys kicker, in that game against the Ravens. That game was a lot closer than the final score. The Cowboys missed 3 field goals in that, which then if they make those field goals, and right, ifs are a whole lot of ifs in the world, but then all of a sudden that Amari Cooper touchdown, they're going for 2 to tie the game at the end of the game.
Right.
So you look at that ineptitude of the Cowboys, who were able to move the ball up and down the field against the Ravens team, who hadn't played a game, right? Who had a little bit of who hadn't been in this situation, right? There was a regular rest for the last one. Now it's Wednesday to Monday. That's worse than playing Monday Night Football and playing the following Sunday. You know?
Right. Yep.
So another limited day's rest.
Yeah, it certainly throws a loop. It's not like doing your podcast last week at 8:30, drinking a little red vino and giving out winners. Right when you roll the tape over another 7 days, another good glass of red. Right, we got a nice rhythm going on.
Listen, if we had to do this on Thursday, it would be tough. It would be really tough.
It would throw my whole week off.
Thanks, Kirk Cousins. All right, with that, let's go to the last game on the slate here. You like that one?
I sure did.
The Las Vegas Raiders coming off an absolute miracle at the Meadowlands against the New York Jets. I think Greg Williams there wanted the Jets to get the Trevor Lawrence and get the number 1 overall pick as he decides to zero blitz on there, and Henry Ruggs burns them for the touchdown. This week, the Raiders are hosting the Indianapolis Colts, who we were both on last week, Greg, but we were holding our breath down there in their game against the Texans. Of course, Deshaun Watson, fumbles near the goal line as they're going in. Colts recover. That's the game there. They get the 6-point win. So this week, you threw me a little bit of a curveball here. You're on the Raiders. You're rolling the dice with the Las Vegas Raiders. Tell me why.
I'm gonna go with the stinky. Hold your nose. They haven't looked good. That Jets game. I would have liked them better if they would have lost that Jets game, right? But keeps my guess in the hunt, right? So I guess that's a good thing. But you were talking about before the Browns looking terrible in the second half. 2 points for the Colts in the second half. Tried to give away that game to the Texans, right? It was 24-20 going into halftime and finished 26 to 20. That's absurd. So I like the Raiders coming back home, playing from home. I've got a question, and I know it's not like a big deal that anyone's making, but the turf toe or whatever's going on with Rivers' foot, right. I really do think is impacting them pretty significantly. So it's kind of a pick against, number one, it's a pick against Rivers because I just don't find him to be a sound quarterback. Like I like the Colts as a team. We were on them last week, right? But again, I don't want to be backing the same teams week after week after week after week.
I think you have been complaining about Phillip Rivers' throwing motion since he was drafted as quarterback out of NC State.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly funny. I don't know. I don't like his temperament. I like his temperament less than I like his throwing motion. I just find him to be, I don't know. I wouldn't want to work with him. But from that side of things, I just think there's something up there with the foot. Just like we got Murray, who's got the ailing shoulder, right? Like kind of picking against those road teams whose quarterback have a little bit of a health issue that it's quote unquote not that big of a deal, but it seemed like a big deal, right? And second half laying a big egg there, laying no points in the second half other than that safety. That I would think that's when your ailment could really start to affect you. So Raiders are very Jekyll and Hyde team, right? And a little bit more not so good than good. So that's why it's hard. But, take the field goal at home. I like it.
All right, so how about this? I love the under in this game. And you didn't mention where I thought you were going, which was the key to me in last week's game against the Texans, was the fact that they had another the Colts had another offensive lineman go out. They were already without, I believe it's Costanzo, and then his replacement now headed to IR. I don't know who they're getting back, but they have had to shuffle the offensive line every week.
Yeah.
And that really was the strength of this offense. Part of the reason that Rivers went there. I mean, he wasn't mobile to begin with. Now you're telling me about his toe and if he's not going to be able to make it there. If that offensive line is as banged up as they appear to be right now, then that's the reason that I say you go with the Raiders in this one. But how about this? We know what that Colts defense can do. You just mentioned, they only scored 2 points, but that was 2 points more than the Texans got there. So, not too shabby on that defensive side of the ball. How about the under? How about the under in this one? Because if
What do
the
you got it at?
Raiders are going to 51.5.
Ooh.
So this is something that I'm talking out here, right? And this has come to us as we're discussing it on the podcast. But I'm just saying if their offensive line struggles continue, we know the Raiders are susceptible with the problems in the secondary Greg told you about last week. I don't know who's coming back. The cornerback you mentioned for them who was playing did go out against the Jets. You mentioned he was going to get hurt. He went out again. He's in concussion protocol this week. But I don't know. I believe they're getting Josh Jacobs back. The Raiders are this week. I don't know if they're getting Jonathan Abrams back for this one. So 2 things to check on. But if they are, if that Colts offense is going to struggle, which they did against a Texans defense, which is not exactly highly rated, and we know that their defense can play, the Colts defense, so they're going to limit the Raiders, this might be a great spot to play the under, 51.5. So I'm actually going to make that an official pick right now.
Don't hate it.
I'm going with the under.
Raiders +3 under 51.5. I like it.
There you go. All right. While you look up if Jonathan Abrams is playing, I'm going to go run down.
Questionable.
Okay. I'll run down the list for everybody. The late addition to this one, we're going under. I'm going under the Raiders and Colts 51.5. Greg likes the Raiders +3. Loves the Saints laying the points against his Eagles. The tease of the week is the Giants +9.5 and the over 45.5 in Tennessee and Jacksonville. We both agree on the Bills laying 2 and the Giants +3. And then I like Kansas City -7, Cleveland +2, and Tampa Bay -6.5. Those are the picks for this week. We got 9. I'm feeling, oh man, this is hubris. After going 8-0 last week,
Did you get my Jags? Did I hear you pick the Jags over the 52.5? I didn't hear that in the.
I didn't say it as part. Cool. I didn't. You know what? You're right. I said it only as part of the tease. He likes it outright too.
Yep.
Thanks for catching me on that one here.
Dude,
we got 10.
It's important to note, but that's just 5 from me and 5 from you, right? Nobody's keeping score that 6 or 7 of the winning picks last week were mine, and only 2 of them were yours.
I was on 3 of those picks. We were on 3 of those picks. Only one of them was I out on an island on. I will tell you that, right? Two of my 3 picks you agreed with.
It takes a village.
Listen,
Joe.
I give credit to where it's due, man. Listen, you were on fire last week, and it was nice that even if you hit the double in baseball, right? Because I know you love those baseball analogies. You still need the next guy to drive you in. So everybody, it was like batting around the order, man. You might have hit the home run, but everybody's batting around, loading the bases.
And we got what? Do you have the percentage for Chris there on the locks on the IG offhand, or
I don't have it in front of me. He was a little bummed because he was on the Rams, the Patriots this week. So
that already came out.
That came and went.
Oh
yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. So he's turned the page.
I thought we had made a pact of non-Thursdays, or at least I got scolded for a Thursday night pick on one of those creepy little Thursday night podcasts.
No. That was because he put it out earlier in the week, right? So you picked a Thursday game on Thursday when we were recording.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
All
No,
right,
and
everybody.
I had a little sprinkle on the Pats last night too. It was annoying.
Well, listen, it's hard to remain perfect for the entire season. We'll take it 1 week. We'll try. We'll try to do better each and every week. That's the promise that we make. I'm sure we can't top last week unless we go 10-0 this week. So that's why we had to pick a couple extra games. At least that's the reason that I'm going with. For Greg Coyle, I'm Joe Masseri. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Wingfoot Locks. Remember, everybody, it's not whether you win or lose. It's whether or not you cover the spread. Have a great week. Here's to 10-0. Talk to you later, guys.